calling from the unceded land of the Lenape in West Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. And I am the literary manager here at Re Theater, and I am going to be your host for these brainstorms. So I'm very excited to hop in with y'all today. For those of you who are new to us, Re Theater is an online theater and education consulting company whose goal is to inspire educators and theater makers to use theater as a tool for community engagement and healing. And every month we offer masterclasses, brainstorms, and wellness spaces on a pay what you decide model in order to ensure equitable access to education. So like I said, pay what you can means pay what you can. And I will be dropping in the chat section a link that if you do feel led to donate, that would be greatly appreciated. But I guess we should just get started. And I'm going to introduce you to, well, actually, before we introduce you to our guests, you can either drop in the chat or if you want to take yourself off of mute, I would like to know what some of y'all are hoping to get out of this today. How are you coming in today? Don't make me call on people.
I'm hoping to get some suggestions how to implement sound outside. We don't have an outdoor theater. We're just going to create one in our courtyard. We do have access to electricity, and you know what types of lighting can be done in an open air, you know, just to give some effects. And of course the safety guidelines, which I really appreciate the document you've already put together. It's how I convinced admin to let us do our show outside.
Yeah, it looks like in the chat we got some people saying that they're having the same questions about sound. I'd like to take a couple more before I introduce our guest. Yeah, let me look at the chat. Yeah, Kathleen, it looks like sound and lights, safety and other tips on performing outside this summer. Tabitha, my students are creating an outdoor performance for the end of the year. We haven't chosen a venue yet and are in beginning planning stages, looking for any and all ideas. Excellent. Christina, my theater company, do you want to shout out your theater company real quick?
Sorry, I gotta move my microphone. Yeah, my theater company is Permafrost Theater Collective, and we are based primarily in New York, but we have company members from all over this
Amazing. But yeah, Permafrost is hoping to do an outdoor event in May, and Christina would love to learn how to do that safely. It will be an outdoor concert in a park in Manhattan and then a rooftop in Brooklyn. Zach, you're here to support your fellow board member, Rob. That's amazing. You got some fans, Rob. And Rebecca, my company is already planning outdoor events. I'm allowed you here for peace of mind, to be honest. Yeah, we are here for that. Rebecca, do you want to shout out who your company is?
Yes, I would love to. I'm here representing Rising Sun Performance Company.
I thought this was you, Rebecca.
Yes.
This is Rebecca, a good playwright friend of mine, and Rising Sun does really great work.
Yeah, and we're hoping to specifically do some kids shows, so I just want to make doubly sure it's safe in that case.
Amazing.
Yeah.
And then we got Kayla Littleton. We are working on spring, summer educational programming and know that some of it may need to be outdoor. So just here to hear what others are doing to get some ideas. Wonderful. PTC loves our wonderful Rising Sun. Yep, I just love, we got some great fans here. Okay, but without further ado, I'm going to introduce y'all to our guest. So Robert J. Klimowski is the PAC Manager and Technical Director of the Academy of Performing Arts at BCIT in Medford, New Jersey. He is a freelance scenic carpenter in the Delaware Valley and has worked with many professional theaters as their technical director and designer as well. He is a member of the New York Thespian Society State Board and has recently been on the NJ Task Force for reopening arts in schools. September Ready through Arts Ed NJ. So Rob, welcome.
Thanks, Sean. Thank you for that intro. Hi, everyone. Hope this Saturday morning does you well. Sorry for those of you on the West Coast that are now just waking up. I guess let's get started. I'm going to share my screen here, and we'll get started on a... all right, so I'm going to slowly go through this document that we created. So as Sean introduced me, I am a technical director of some sorts, if you want to call it that. I have worked for many years. I own my own production company in South Jersey. I am on the New Jersey Thespian State Board, and I was also part of the New Jersey Task Force for reopening schools. And I'm big on making sure the arts are happening. I created this document with a friend of mine, Carolyn Little. She is the chapter director of the New Jersey Thespians State Board, and she works in Toms River, New Jersey. And we both were on the same task force. And from that task force, we, so this document, it was actually compiled of things that already existed. And I just put my own twist to it. I put them all because from the technical field, there's countless companies that put together opening guidelines and or how to open your theater or do something outside. Again, I was on this New Jersey task force and I did all this document work, but I want to know that when I created this, yes, it's based in the PA, Delaware, New York, New Jersey area, but I started finding stuff from all around the country. So I hope you could take this and then go along with your guidelines. And there was something I'll talk about later with this. So now, where am I doing this show or event? You first need to figure out where your playing area is. Where are your venue spaces? Is it shaded, protected from the elements? Is the area too noisy? Are you near a highway? That's going to be a big factor if you want people to hear your actors. How will backstage work? Do they need to change safely, separate space? Do you have power? Dressing rooms. Where can the performers change and get ready? Audience or no audience? Are you going to film it, or do you want to actually put audience out there and watch the production? Or parking. Where's everyone going to park when it comes down to this? And restrooms. That's a big one. You know how everyone eventually has to go. That intermission line is always backed up. And can you abide by socially distant and CDC regulations? So, as I stated before, I was on the September Ready task force this past summer, and we created documents with how to open our schools safely and have the arts perform. And doing all this research, my partner, she told me that her production of Shrek never happened, like many of our productions never happened, but she really wanted to put it on. So she said, is there a possibility to do it outside? Because from all this research we started finding in the September Ready, it's actually better to do stuff outside than indoors based on aerosol studies. So in this, I've compiled from everything from USITT, CDC, the event safety guidelines, to OSHA, IATSE, Safe Sets International, EDTA, and all these groups, I was finding they were putting out their own sets of guidelines. A lot repeated the same thing, but let's put them all together in one document because not everybody can see these, because I follow, as I said, technical theater, and almost all these happen in that field. Not all educators got all this info. So taking all this, and she really wanted to put on a production outside. So she asked me, is there a way that we can do this? So I started putting together a document for her and her to present to her principal. And from that, it turned into, yeah, you can do it outside, because we were part of this NFHS study with Dr. James Weaver, who in studies showed that it is actually better to be outside because the airflow is what matters when it comes to the transmission of the virus. And in his thing, he's saying, of course, outdoors, which is, as you can see right here, it's better, less transmission than being indoors. So from this, again, on our September Ready, we sent out these things saying, outdoors, it's better, always wear a mask, types of covering, social distance. So now we're going to get into recommendations. As we said before, I want you to talk about venue search. Are you going to have audience? Tech booth video area? Masks? What are good and what are bad? Because I've been seeing a lot of bad ones out there. And microphone maintenance. So first, let's talk about venues, possible types of ideas to do for venues and stages. These are a couple that I found online. Some of them are built, some of them are rented, obviously, and some are based off of the side of your school. The point of this is to get something that's going to help you and stretch your mind of, you know what, let me do something different. This is if you actually want a stage. You could also do it in places like your football field, your parking lot, your baseball diamond. I know that we're in spring, so baseball diamond's probably going to be less likely to have. I will show you in the future, there are a couple productions that were done on the baseball field in the fall. So that's why possibly your football field might be accessible right now in the spring. But these are, again, ideas that you can use in the future. All right. Audience. There's different ways you could do audience setup. You could either have rows that are spread out, individual seating 6 foot apart, or you can do, as I like to call them, household boxes, which household, if you could see in the bottom corner down here, I put a recommendation that you would build something either out of wood or PVC to make your life easier, and a tape measure, and you field spray paint onto the grass to give yourself a nice 6x6 box that you could fit up to maybe 5-6 people in if it was a household, as long as they live together. And they bought the tickets together, and you could put them in. You could have as much as 1 person in a box to 6. Each box is spread apart 6 foot. Also, you could either have them staggered or checkerboard style. So, people could see around groups of others. That's your call when it comes down to the venue. I also recommend, if your facility does not already have one, a fogger. If you have a fogger, the mist takes about, if you did it indoors, it takes about a half hour to dry. If you do it outdoors, it takes 5 minutes. So if you are doing a presentation and you have a bunch of chairs you are providing, and you have another show in about 2 hours, just spray down all the seats, let them sit for about 10 minutes. They're good to go. Your tech booths or film booths, whichever one you plan on doing. I highly recommend that you cover them so your equipment doesn't overheat. I had this problem over the summer when I was doing an event, and my sound equipment started getting hot because I was on blacktop. So I got a tent from the back of my truck and set it up, and things got better. But you also want to stay cool because you're going to be sitting there for a very long time. Obviously you want to be socially distanced from the rest of the crowd. You want to mark off your area. Obviously you're going to possibly have cables hanging around, so you got to make sure that they are fastened down so no one trips over them, any hazards of any sorts. It's highly recommended that you socially distance also when you are in the booth. Even though you've been working together for a while, you want to show that you are doing it right. Everyone, again, should be masked, but it's recommended, as you can see in the pictures, these are some productions that have happened, just to separate from everybody. It's a good way to practice. All right, masks and covers. Here's the one I love talking about. So for those of you that are band geeks, such as myself, there's been fun ways of creating masks, like putting slits in them so it's easier to use. And there's some people that are trying to patent some of these types of masks. You can make them on your own. But if you do something along the style of these for your instrument, if you are having live music, or if any of you are band leaders and you didn't know this, you could do stuff like this, taking a sock, putting it over your horn, anything to help the less transmission. On the right side here, this is in the process of being approved by the CDC. It's not yet, but this is the only one that's a full clear mask that is in the process of being approved. There's also a lot of people say, oh, it keeps fogging up. A highly recommended thing is anti-fogger, which is what hockey players use on their masks when they play hockey, obviously. So they can see through it, all the sweat, they're breathing heavy. It doesn't cloud their vision. Also below that is the singing mask, which if you haven't seen it looks almost like a duck bill. It's a little thicker. It's able so you can move your jaw. Also part of this, I highly recommend nothing over the ear, because when you sing, your ears also move. So if you are moving around a lot, your mask is going to come off. I recommend it actually going around your head so it stays more fastened. And of course, the best way to do it is being a masked singer down at the bottom, with your costume. So you could build that into your costume if you wish, if you were doing something, and go from there. Now to the bad and the ugly. Whoop. Yep. I see a couple productions have been using these. Don't use them. You are not solving any problems. You are still transmission. Your spit and particles are still moving around because there is nothing holding it close to your face. And plus, the person here with the hat, I don't even know how you would breathe in that. That is so close to your face, and it's plastic. So I highly recommend, if you see these on Amazon, okay, $6. No, don't use them. They're bad. Microphones. I know somebody asked about microphones. So on here, this is actually ways to clean your microphones. And that's also in the document. This will be available for anybody that is, but all these pictures are also in the document. On the left side, you see how to clean a microphone from basic thing, which you could do this once if one person uses a single microphone. Another thing, as you can see, the Amazon order up here. I recommend getting these if you use microphones as well, which is a sock that goes over top, which you could do. I do this. I put this on the microphone, one of the sleeve covers, and then I put one of these over top and I throw them away, switch out the sleeve cover, clean them the proper way later, but then I just throw these away because you get them in 100 pack and you're all well good. Now, for people that are using lavs and through the hair mics and all that, there's a proper way to clean them as well. That is in the document as well, and you can follow those instructions after the fact. Up here, this is, a lot of teachers are starting to use this. And you pretty much can get this on Amazon for, I believe, $30, but it's its own amplifier plus your headset. This is helpful for if you want to, I don't want to say low cost because each person's going to need one of these, but you can do your show without worrying about a full sound system if you were doing that. This would be cheaper than bringing a whole system out or renting one. Also up here in the top corner, I recommend getting from the dollar store baskets or something that they can put their microphone in right after they're done using, so nobody touches it. It's not coiled up. They just put it in it, and the person that's cleaning it afterwards can just grab the basket and they know whose it was. But these are just some ideas. But of course, when you're wearing a mask, you can wear a lav over top of the mask. And I did it for a production I was part of that the kids kept on the mask the whole time, and the lav was right in front. You could hear them plain as day, long as it was a loose, thicker mask, so it's not right up against their face. But you could hear them clear as day with the microphone. And also, one person had it through their hair, and you could hear them just as fine too. I also do not recommend. I mean, it's kind of hard. It depends on your area. You could do area mics outside, but on a nice windy day, you're going to hate it because you're going to hit up so much static or feedback. So having a lav or handheld is probably the best bet you're going to have for an outdoor show. Unless you're in a controlled alleyway of knowing that there's going to be no wind, I still recommend using lavs. All right. Here are some examples of productions that have already happened. So these are just some fun pictures I threw in here. But now, here we go. Montclair State University. They actually went into their parking garage and started their, they did their choir in there, their band. They, as you could see, socially distanced, and they were on the Today Show, I believe. They did a segment on them in the morning. That link is also in the document. But they were able to hold all their classes, socially distance, and perform for all their needs. The next one. This was on the left side, was over in England, and this was for a concert. Obviously, we don't have that money. I'm not telling you to spend that money, but this is kind of what they did. They had their stage, and they sectioned off with boundary things so everyone stayed safe. The further you went back, the higher they built up risers on the lower left-hand corner. On the right side, this was Brad Paisley's concert in St. Louis in the summer. They sectioned off the part, as you can see, the red and white squares plus the car parked. If you were doing a drive-in style, this would be great because I actually did one of these last year as well. And the car parks, you can only get out on the passenger side, and that's it. And you can put out chairs if you want. And then there, as you can see, there's red on the right side of the passenger chairs and in front of them so they can have a clear view. Or you can stay in your car. There's also, as also in the document, you can get radio transmitters. So you can actually do a drive-in theater style and just have it transmitted through the radio, and they could sit in their cars. But again, that's a little high tech if you don't want to go down that route. But it is pretty cheap. Here's some other ideas of productions that have happened. This was up in the Parkway, up in there's the E Street Band and a few other people. This was over in the top left-hand corner. This was, I believe, in Allentown, PA. They did a outdoor like cabaret, and they just spread out the seats. Down in the left-hand corner, this was probably as simple as you can get. You got a couple pop-up tents. The kids performed wearing their masks, and they were for the School of Rock down in South Jersey. And then on the right side was Citizens Bank Park in Philadelphia, had a slew of concerts that they built a stage outside of the baseball stadium, and comedians and concert goers. But again, this is a big name thing. That if you're in a high school, you're not going to be spending that type of money. But these are just things that have happened. Surflight Theater. They're based in Beach Haven, New Jersey, and they are a summer stock. They had to survive because that was their only source of income. Last year, they rented I believe it was an 80 by 40 tent, and they set up a stage on the one end. They set up their own light grid, practice and everything, moved their entire theater, not even 500 yards from their actual space, onto a park that was right next to store. They put fencing around so it kept people from looking in, and also the fence, as you can see, there was no sides, and that's important because you need airflow. You can't just shut off a tent because you want to keep it dark in there. You actually need to keep them open for airflow. That's very important. Well, as you can see in the top right-hand corner, the hurricane came through and it leveled the entire tent. Well, they had a community that came together and they ended up getting a second tent, and they were up on their feet about 3 weeks later. So that was good. But we'll get to that in a little bit. Other productions. Swarthmore College in Pennsylvania did a circus style tent, and they did Midsummer Night's Dream. They opened up the one side and were right up against the woods, and they were able to use the woods as part of their scenery. Top right hand corner, this was the Burlington Streetlighters, I believe, and they just built a small stage outside of their stage door, and they performed, and as you can see, socially distanced, and they used lights from their actual theater by running power right outside. Bottom left-hand corner. This was the Milton Quincy Theater Group in Massachusetts. They did a production of Beauty and the Beast. They were a children's theater production, and they obviously social distance and did it in an amphitheater that was in the area, I believe. This one's kind of cool. The middle one on the bottom was the Prism Theater Company. They did Tarzan in an actual zoo. So they actually had, they didn't need sound effects because they actually had the zoo behind them. All the ensemble was masked. The only two people that were not masked was the two main characters. And of course, in the bottom right hand corner is the Berkshire, I think, right? Yeah. Berkshire Theater in Massachusetts. They did Godspell. Another quick one. This was a Commedia show done outside of theater. This was a production I did at Rancocas Valley High School in Mount Holly, New Jersey. And we strung lights up to the front of the school. That's all it was. The audience was spread out, and we just built a thing out of the front of the structure. And it was a Commedia show, so they were already masked. It kind of worked. Up here is, I believe, a picture from Hawaii. They did a outdoor production, built a small stage, squared out, like I said, household sections, and I think they did 4 at the most people can come. Down left-hand corner was a production of Midsummer Night's Dream. I actually forget where it was, but they did it, as you can see, socially distanced. This one was the real cool one. This one was done in Illinois. This one was done on the baseball field. They did Outsiders, and they did it using the backstop for the baseball field, and the audience sat pretty much infield all the way back to the outfield. And that was a really well done production. That's and if I haven't mentioned yet, and I don't think I did, we have a Facebook group too. So all this is on, there's a lot more stuff that's on social media as well. But all right. So any of you that have dance companies or know somebody with dance companies, their rules have been changing also. They have been allowed to dance with masks, and some have done without masks. I again highly recommend, until everything's done, wear masks. But there was a lot of setup in parking lots for their actual production. Down here in the bottom, this was actually my production. We set up a stage deck, put a tent over top of it, and put up a couple lights. So when, of course, the daytime, you're not going to see the lights, but for the evening that we had the more advanced dancers, you could see them in the evening. Some people just rolled Marley right onto the blacktop. That had to hurt come midday. That was a lot of complaints I heard from some dance studios that didn't have a tent over their space, was the Marley or the stage decking was hurting the feet of the dancers because it was getting too hot, especially during the summer. Now in the spring, we shouldn't be getting that much of a problem, but still, Marley is rubber and it will take the heat, even if it is not that hot of a day. Let's see. This was a production done in the UK. They used a gazebo as their main set, and they danced was really cool. Set up lights. They had their own tech booth, and they were a little different over there, but I thought that was a pretty cool production that they did. This was my coworkers' production of Shrek. They filmed everything outside in costume, and except for group numbers, they got permission to go into the school. And for, if any of you don't know the show, the tap dancing rats, they wanted that scene to be together, so they actually filmed that on stage, and I think they filmed 2 other scenes on stage. They got special permission, and they went in and did that, and they ended up filming the whole production, and it went well. All right. Can you weather the weather? This is your biggest enemy. Your weather forecast, obviously we're in the edge of winter now. Sorry for those of you in Texas. And we, as you can see, cold was an issue now, and it will be early spring as well. You also have to anticipate rain. You have to anticipate thunderstorms. All these different things that are factors. You need to think ahead. Am I going to plan a rain date, or am I protected from the elements? Am I putting a tent over the audience plus that, and we could still continue on with the show? Like the Swarthmore one earlier, we actually got permission from the fire marshal to put heating, what are they called? Heating towers inside the tent. So it could keep, because we did the production in November, so it was kind of cold, and we put heating towers in there, and we got permission for that. Again, make sure things are approved by your fire marshal or principal or admin, whichever one you're doing. But that's pretty much it from me on showing examples. And again, there's more in the document. There's more on the Facebook page, quick links and whatnot. And I am updating it constantly. And one thing I am getting ready to, hopefully in the next couple days, I've been compiling all of every state's regulations for outdoor use, and I'm going to put that in its own section. So all you have to do is press your state, and it will tell you what your outdoor regulations are. Because again, I base this off of stuff I found, because I know in Jersey we had different issues than what people down in Florida and Texas had. So it depends on where you are in the country. Your state has different guidelines. But this document was just created so you can actually come up with your own solution to the problem. And of course, we don't want to just roll over and say, we're not doing anything, because we want it. We need it. The kids need it. It needs to happen. And we want to keep the arts alive. And as somebody said, if it succeeds on Zoom, theater's going to die. And we don't want it to succeed. We want that live audience. We want them to be there. We want you to, doing an outdoor production is great. And we hope you can put on your production. I hope this helps you put on your production. I heard somebody said they already presented it to their admin and it helped them out. So I hope this does you well. And I guess, Sean, we're next step, whatever you want. I'm going to stop sharing.
All right, thanks, Rob. Well, before we kind of open, actually, before I forget, there was a question in the chat on the Mike's page. And Mary, do you want to come off mute and ask that question?
A long time ago, I used to direct Shakespeare in the Park. And one year we used floor mics at the perimeter of where the cement and the grass were. And for actors that were in that area, I thought it worked really well. And I'm wondering how you feel about floor mics.
Floor mics are kind of the same as area mics. They are good, but again, if you have a windy day, they will give you a lot of feedback, or not feedback, but like you'll hear the wind through those, because they're meant to pick up you walking, tapping, and they will pick that up. But again, I agree. Like You can do area mics. I have done them in the past outdoors where I had them almost very low, but enough that if somebody was projecting, you can hear them. But again, once the wind started picking up, I would kind of just take them out if that was an issue.
Do you have any thoughts about if we have to rent a light truss that will be sturdy enough to be maintained outside? Do you have any recommendations about that, or would that be up to the company that we would rent it from?
Well, that's actually a good question. I, from the technical field, am one of those people that I say, ask one of those people as your rep, or find a theater consultant that will help you along. That's why the one section in the document says, this is the process you need to think about before you actually consider doing an outdoor show. Because it's not like, hey, let's just go outside and put on this production. You got to think, all right, who's going to be in charge of this? Who's going to be in charge of this? Who's going to be in charge of this? And that's definitely one of those things that if you don't have a TD, you're going to need your, whoever's, say you get a company, they need to be your liaison and make sure that everything goes right, because you have to worry about your production. You don't
Sure.
want to worry about that. So
Sure. Thank you.
Right. I noticed that folks are heading out, but before we get to the chats, the open forum section, I just want to share my screen one more time, and just for you folks that are new to Re-Theater, these are all our social medias. On Instagram, it's at re.theater with an R-E. At Facebook, it's at re:theater with an R-E. And here's the website. And there's also the podcast, Flipping the Script, which is fantastic. And this is the email for Lindsay, our wonderful founder. So I'll just leave that up there for a couple seconds if anybody wants to jot that down. But I just want y'all to be thinking about any questions, but I think for right now, we're going to move into, I'm just going to take this down. All right. For right now, I want to hear from you folks. I know we talked to a couple at the beginning, but for those who came in later or who just didn't get to share, I kind of would like to know what y'all are working on, and if you have a specific troubleshooting question.
Hi,
Hi,
I'm
Marie.
Maria. I'm from Lakewood, Colorado, right outside of Denver, basically Denver. So my school is doing a couple different things. We're doing Curtains, the musical, which I believe we'll really have to do that in probably inside because it's set on a stage, unless I could configure something outside that would look like that. And then we're also trying to do Shakespeare in the Park kind of thing for the Shakespeare Fest. What thoughts do you guys have about, or suggestions about that and any of those two? I mean, I know I saw a lot of ideas or whatever, but that's what we're working on. And I just didn't know if anybody ever did any of those two outside or.
Yeah, doing curtains outside would be hard just because so much of it depends.
It's set on a stage.
Set on
Yeah.
the stage, but also with it being like a murder mystery, a lot of it depends on quick blackouts. And,
Right.
And you need the lighting of like the stage magic moments and everything like that. The idea of like a Shakespeare in the Park thing would be fantastic. What do you have like any thoughts of what you'd want to produce?
We're looking at either like Tempest or maybe like just a 10-minute version. Like a student, I have middle school students, so just a short 10-minute version or a couple 10-minute versions of various plays. I like the Tempest, Romeo and Juliet, and I was looking at Midsummer Night's Dream, of course.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely reach out to us. And as a learning manager, my job is kind of like to introduce you teachers to new work out there. So I might be able to recommend some really good short adaptations of Shakespeare. But Rob, what about you? What are your thoughts on?
Well, I actually have never seen Curtains, but I know what you just said, that it takes place on a stage. And yes, those types of shows are hard to do, especially with a lot of, it's like saying, let's do Drowsy Chaperone without actually all the tricks. Like it's kind of hard. But for the Shakespeare one, there's actually a couple productions that have happened that are in the document of, there was walk through the parks. So they had a whole bunch of people set up in different parts of a forest or woods, and or even just a park, and the audience walked to each station for the scene and as they performed. And there was a couple music concerts done that way too. Again, on the one part of the document, there's nothing but links. So it's sectioned off: theater, music, dance, religion. Like there's a whole bunch of things that were done outdoors that I've just been finding. And instead of just putting pictures up constantly, I just put the link in so you can either read articles or watch a video. A lot of them are YouTube videos, so you can find them, or news videos. But yeah, doing a walkthrough is pretty easy. But you could also, like the one I showed before, set up something and the audience sits there and you use the edge line of a forest as your backdrop. I know I did the Crucible that way, actually. So, and yeah, we did that like 3 years ago, and we set up the audience under a small tent, and we set up a stage, and you could see in the background, we got permission in the woods to have a bonfire so you could see the kids having, and everything was lit by torch light, no actual lighting.
I guess I can go. I'm
Yeah,
from Tom's River. Carolyn's one of my best friends, Rob.
Hi.
I think you saw me at the Fest Fest. I'm at Tom's River East. So right now we're planning to do Godspell. Doing virtual practices now. Going to try to do on stage with the open doors on the side with a very limited audience, kind of like how Count Basie did in the summer. I don't know if you know, I mean this winter. But I know that I'm not sure I'm going to get approval. And the only reason why we're doing that, we're going to have the masks. I actually was going to ask you about that clear mask. And we're trying to do it very socially distanced in the whole 9 yards of Gospel. But I do want to have a plan to go outside, because I want to have something in place, because I just don't know with the district. It's just, you never know. Right now, they're telling me I can go forward, but I don't know.
Well, Godspell is actually kind of easy to do outside.
Yeah, I know. My problem is space, is like having a venue that's not going to cost me a fortune. We lost all our money from last year, so we have no.
Do it on the edge of the football field and use the back of the bleachers as your.
I bet you they will not let me use the football field. They use lacrosse. Lacrosse usually is on the football field. That's a precious place, Sports
yeah, I know.
Precious. So
Sports, yep.
I was thinking the front of the school and the parking lot, but not, I don't know about the drive up thing, but just doing that front of the school, and like, then we'd have space and maybe we could put chairs in the parking lot. But I just wanted to find out more information about it as a backup. I'm going to try to do the in school, even if it's just streamed, even if we just stream it, but with masks and socially distance, and only because I think it's going to be easy for me financially.
Yeah. I mean, like
the
one I did at RV that I showed you the picture of, we hung the patio lights over top and we put the audience out there. That was at the Performing Arts Center, which is in the back of the school. And there's only, once you get back there, you can't go anywhere. So we just sectioned it off. So the audience sat there, and then, but that was easy. And then we just used the front of the school. Like you said, you can use that. And especially with Godspell, you only need a few things to make that show happen. But, it's.
Yeah. I'm building the set. I mean, I have to use all of my equipment from last year when we did Grease, which we did have a structure. We had metal, we had all this stuff. So I can't buy anything extra right now. That's why I switched it to Godspell, because I figured it was more flexible. So, the mask, I was interested in the clear mask. You said there was a clear mask that's getting approval.
Yeah, I read, on one of the sites that is doing studies and trying to get approval from the CDC said that one and another clear mask that has a smaller window are trying to be approved by the CDC. And they say that, and again, you know, it took forever for the NFHS to get approved by the CDC with the droplet test. So we'll see how long
Right.
that approval takes.
Yeah.
So, but it's one of
I
those
have
things.
the singer's mask down to get as an idea. I just wanted to know if there was a clear one, because my idea with it is that they were going, it sounds weird, but they were going to have a clear mask and then they're going to put another mask over that mask. That's their makeup in the Godspell, like,
Mhm.
you know, like something that's character driven that we make, but it won't be strong enough for singing. So I need something under
Yeah, that you can move.
that I can move. That's
And
an idea that we're playing with.
And I have seen a duckbill mask that is clear. It's just that I don't
Okay.
even think they even started to try and get that approved because it just
Okay.
needs to be tight around the face. That's the
Right.
main purpose of, especially when you're singing, it just needs to be
Right. I know.
move your jaw, but it can also keep nice and tight to your face.
Right.
So,
That's what my idea was, to put a mask underneath
mhm.
for the first part, and then when they're changing into their positions, that they would put this other mask over it. That wasn't good for singing, but they'll have the other one under it,
Mhm.
and then the mic would be like in the hair, probably. At least that's a concept. I was wondering what you thought of that, actually.
Yeah, no, that works. And that'll definitely work. And depending again where you are locating your space, you can have hidden mics, like actual handheld mics, if you wanted them to do that, because those won't pick up as much as area mics, but you could use handheld mics also for your productions.
Okay.
Tabitha, you're so politely holding your hand up.
Oh,
I can't, your
Unmute.
sound is not working. While Tabitha's figuring that out, do you want to drop in the chat, Tabitha, or?
Can you hear me at all now?
yeah, I can't.
Great.
Okay.
Yes.
Whatever. All right. We use the clear masks that are in your presentation with the foam on the nose and the
Mhm.
chin for our production of Sherlock Holmes in January. And I don't know how safe they really are compared to like a actual cloth or a medical grade mask.
Mhm.
They have two different types that you can get, but basically the straps go behind the head and like above and below your ears. And there are gaps on the side where it can come in contact with your face to like stop airflow from coming out there, but you have to squeeze it really tight. It smushes your nose quite a bit. So like everybody sees squished
Hard to
noses
sing.
really
Mhm.
close to the chin. So basically what we ran into is like all of actors' spit just collects in them. So if they don't have a chance to go off stage and like wipe it out, then it gets really gross. And we filmed in that mask too. So like a lot of our filmed production, there's just moisture
Spots.
all over the front of it.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And I
Those-
I wouldn't think you could put another mask over the top of that just because that's like, it's already squishing your face more than any other mask I've ever worn. So I don't know that I would go that route, but they worked as far as like audience being able to see expression. And I got a lot of compliments from parents that they were glad that we chose those. But I don't know about like efficacy against the virus.
Mhm.
Just
Yeah.
They-
And that's why I said that I think they're still up for, they're still being looked at, because I
Right.
did see one that does have something on the side,
Mhm.
but I couldn't find a link that was even being thrown towards the CDC.
And those ones, the foam pieces that are on the nose and the chin come off really easily. They don't have like a good glue that's attached to them. I've seen some other theaters like take them apart and re-glue them for the sake of being able to function better. But I had foam pieces migrating on faces all throughout our show, and there's
Well,
nothing I could do about
I
that.
mean,
Good to know.
that's what a staple gun's for.
I can, yeah. I could invest in the singing one. I thought about that and then putting in the mask over that to make it, because that's not colorful. If we're going to cover the mask, you know, because again, with Godspell, the makeup thing, I can't do all that. I can't do any of that part, putting the makeup on, that's a nightmare. I even have them maybe putting gloves on, like wearing gloves the entire show, like so that gloves, like nobody gets to use them. Everybody has their own. So I don't know. We're playing with all of this right now with the hopes. And we're going to put it up in May. So May is a while away. So maybe that life will be a little better. Also,
And that's the thing. Things are easing up in some states. I know some are now, I mean, knock on wood, things are getting better, but there are still a lot of things that are in the big unknown.
Well,
so, and that's why it's better to be on the safe side than, sorry.
Yeah, no, I'm trying to do that, but I also want to get these kids an in-person show because they did virtual in the fall and we did a great job. We did Our Town. It was great, fabulous. But like you said, we don't want that to succeed, but that's not even the issue. They want the live show. And I promised them I would get them it somehow, some way. So thank you. I appreciate the information. I have to go, but thank you very much. Nice seeing you again, Rob, and meeting everybody.
Anyone else?
Hi.
Laura first, and then.
Great. I'll be quick.
I'm sorry.
No. I'll be quick. Hi, I'm Laura Agadello. I teach high school theater in Chesapeake, Virginia. Currently, we're working on our own production and kind of a devised piece based off of Pandora's Box for the VHSL competition that will be recorded. We are doing it in person, recording in person, because currently my school system is in a hybrid model. And then my plan is I am here because I want to get some literature to share with my administration, because I am proposing a plan. We have an outdoor forum in the middle of our school that kids eat lunch in, that I want to do some Shakespeare in the park, pretty much Shakespeare outside. So a lot of the reason I came here is to get ideas to propose how to do the seating outside and how to, you know, be safe and during the times that we are living in. So as far as that, I'm sorry for logging in late. I'm in the middle of moving.
Well, is your forum a rectangular shape or square?
It is round and has the most beautiful acoustics ever.
Awesome. How wide is it?
I would say it is, goodness, about 150 to 200 feet round.
Perfect. I recommend an alleyway.
Okay.
So if you do audience on one side, audience on the other, and you do an alleyway style with your actors that they can travel back and forth, the audience only has to do this. They're not completely turning around or looking. They can just turn their head just slightly this way or this way. And there's a lot of Shakespeare plays that are written to be in alleyway form. Othello is one of them. Othello, you can easily do left to right, and you don't need a set. You don't need anything. You just need guys fighting. So it's, you know, it's one of those things, as long as you keep a nice big space. So your last actors, you know, a couple feet from your first patron. So, but if you're that big of a space, you should be able to get easily maybe 100.
That's what I was hoping.
Yeah, 100 audience, probably of that size. And also
that's what I was hoping.
For two. So
awesome. Thank you. I will definitely look into that because I haven't chosen a play yet. But, you know, I'm looking forward to, you know, of course, Midsummer comes to mind just because of the, you know, the fun quality of the show and everything. But I'm open for other ideas. So I'll definitely look into what is conducive to alleyway. That'll be great. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I just dropped in the chat section for anybody that came in late. the resource page for this chat, which will have the recording of this this brainstorm, but also a bunch of links, and we'll be constantly adding links and recommendations on that page. But next.
Hi, my name is Carolyn. So my question is, I work in Hamilton, New Jersey, and we have 3 high schools within Hamilton.
Yep.
Basically, how Hamilton works is if one school does something, the other 3 schools have to do it almost the exact same way, which is very annoying because we're very different. So our problem right now is we're doing it outside. We're talking to Reed Sound Company, which is like right down the road from us.
Yep.
We're getting all all the equipment stuff is good. Our problem is where we're doing it. We were talking about renting a stage and doing all that kind of stuff. Now, because all 3 schools are different with their sports stuff, some might be doing it in the football stadium, some might get a stage, one might not get a stage. So right now, because of how my schedule, not football schedule, lacrosse schedule, with how my sports are working, it looks like my school will not be doing it in any kind of area where there's stadium seating like you would at a football field. And we're not going to be renting a stage. So the audience and the actors will all be on the same level. I'm having a hard time trying to figure out how the audience will be able to see the kids if everyone's on the same level and not being blocked if we're spread out on like a different practice field. We had like tons of practice fields, we'll probably be on one of them. So I'm trying to figure out how, I don't know, to elevate the kids or do something where the audience can actually see the kids even though they're all on the same plane kind of thing.
So first off, you said that you can't rent stage, correct?
I have no more money. My budget went out the window last year when my Mamma Mia was canceled the night we were supposed to open. So we lost all of our money last year.
Yep.
And the district is giving us some money, but that money is going towards, we're doing it during the day, so we don't do lighting, but all the sound equipment and stuff like that. That's the district said they paid for that. When we talked about renting a stage, they're like, oh, I don't know, that's too expensive. Mm-hmm. So even with the district helping, we can't afford to run a stage.
Well, my next question is, you said that you in which district are you?
Hamilton. So I'm at Hamilton West, and then we have Steiner High School and then Nottingham High School.
Nottingham. Okay. I knew Nottingham. Okay.
Yeah.
So is there a way that 3 of you can talk and maybe use the same venue?
That's what we're aiming for, but it's going to be so spread out because of we're doing it in May and June between the 3 schools, but with Memorial Day going in there, the one weekend is out because of Mother's Day weekend and stuff like that. Yeah. So my school and Nottingham are going in a row, but then Steiner's going in June. So we were going to do like 3 weekends in a row, boom, 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 rent all the equipment and be like that for 3 weeks straight. But now we can't, now they're trying to separate it because we can't go 3 weekends in a row kind of thing.
Gotcha. Well, I'm actually doing this at my school. We are setting up a 32 by 16 foot stage. I'm building it I'm making pretty much a giant deck outside in a parking lot. And we are using it from our dance shows to our musical, to our graduation and a few other things, but it's all going to be in the parking lot for about a month and a half. So, which is the same time frame you're doing. Is there a way that you can possibly, instead of renting a stage, is there a way you can just do platforms and stuff?
I could see about that and then try to share it between 3 schools, I guess. Because the one good thing about having the 3 schools is we have the people who move stuff between the different schools. Mm-hmm. So even if we have it at 3 different locations, it could be easily moved as long as it's easy to take apart and put back together.
Yeah.
I'm just worried that it's going to be, as of right now, Nottingham is fine with using their football field, but because of because of spring track and lacrosse going at the same time, I have more people using my field than the other 2 schools. So it's probably going to be just me that gets kind of messed up with this.
Yeah. So, I mean, is there a possibility that you can maybe rehearse your own way and then actually use their field?
That's true. I could talk to them about that.
Because then you create that as one venue, everything is put there, it's stored there, whatever, but then when you do your production, you have it for the week. That's your space for the week.
Yeah.
And I know I'm doing that for possibly 2 shows up North Jersey. We're using the football stands. That's where the audience will sit, and the track / off sidelines will be the stage for the show. So, but it's 2 schools using the same football field. So
I'll mention that, seeing if I can try to like get to Steinert or Nottingham or something. Luckily, all the high schools are near each other, so it's not like it's a 10-minute drive for either school. So it's just frustrating because we never had to deal with, obviously doing outside venues, dealing with sports in that sense. We dealt with schedules, but not with like, I need your playing field that you have to have your practice on.
Yeah.
Hey, Tabitha, can you elaborate on what you were brought up in the chat section?
Yeah, so you were talking about like wondering whether your audience will be able to see on the same plane as your actors. Like the further back you sit, the less you'll be able to see. I went to a show in Kansas City that was at a cemetery, and actually the back section of the audience was on a lower ground level than basically like there was a crest on a hill, but the show itself was in a cemetery. So they had these cemetery plots that they outlined. It was just boxes on the ground that they had laid out blankets in, actually, to demonstrate like one party will sit here, and then it was spaced out 6 feet. It was done in a checkerboard, and the people who sat in the first, I think, 4 rows of blankets, that was all, you sit on the blanket on the ground, and you can bring your own blankets to put on top of it, and they change them out every performance. And then further back, it was like camping chair seating. You bring your own seats. And even from further back, people could see everything that was happening up in the stage area. So just like if you could, even if you can't necessarily set up risers for your audience to sit on, you could sell, ground level seats that youngsters could sit on. And then further back have either chairs that you provide or ask people to bring camping chairs, so that you've created your own tiered seating system. And the checkerboard pattern worked really well for visibility.
Oh, I like that.
Also,
Thank
doing
you.
a play in a cemetery is really cool. So that too, but yeah.
Thank you. That's a really good idea, actually.
Yeah, and even if you also wanted to get another level, you can also put down a platform, and the back one, say it's 4 rows, the 4th row can actually be up on a riser-ish. So it's
Thank you.
Hi, can I ask a question?
Sure.
Hi, thank you for doing this. Real quick, so I work at Scotch Plains Fanwood High School in Union County, and the administration wants us to do an outdoor show first weekend of June. They want to rent or build us a stage on the football field. We just lost our TD, so I'm kind of like flying blind as far as the technical aspects of outdoor theater. When I'm looking at this site for like being able to run sound, maybe even be able to have some lighting effects, what am I looking for as far as like the electrical capabilities of like an outdoor space? Like what do I need? What do I need at this space in order to make that kind of stuff work?
Okay, you said you're on a football field, right?
Correct.
Sorry, one second. Sorry, I had to cough.
I've never actually even been to this football field, so I have no idea what their like outdoor stuff is.
Most football fields have 4 sources of power. They have the power for their press box. They have a power for usually the sidelines, and they have, of course, their lighting for the football field. If there's lights, it might be.
There are lights.
Okay, so but the lights you can control by one side or the other. So you could just say, I'm going to just do it at night and put on a light and just perform that way. Right. But if you wanted to actually do lighting, do you have stands in front of where you're planning on doing it? Like the stands are high. You can set up like light trees.
Correct.
They're higher and they can shoot down at your actors, and even a follow spot from the press booth if you really wanted one.
Right.
And if not, I do have a section in the document that is about generators. Mm-hmm. And there's all these things that protocol, especially in Jersey, you got to follow. But there is ways to soften the sound of a generator by making a box so you don't hear that loud motor running the whole time. And I have done productions where I had 3 generators going,
Okay.
but you couldn't hear them. They were behind the set or even underneath the stands and stuff like that. So, but for sound alone, you're only pulling for a soundboard. You only need 120 volts. So you're good with that one. Lighting is going to be your issue. Lighting, if you are just, I'm going to take DJ lights and turn them on. As long as you have a power strip, you can get up to 6 lights on one, actually probably 8 onto one strip, source of 120 power. But if you are actually doing theatrical lighting, you're going to need a portable, first of all, dimmer. If you plan on dimming them, you're going to need a portable dimmer, and you're going to need a generator that's going to pack enough energy to control that. So that will be, again, if you want to reach out to whoever's doing do you know who's doing your staging?
No. My problem is that my administration has essentially said that they will pay for stuff, but we have to tell them what we want before they say if they'll pay for it or not, which is such a joke because I'm like, whoa, like I'd rather them tell me whatever. That's the whole thing. So I'm kind of flying blind as to what I could reasonably ask them.
You said you're up in Union, right? You have up there, I mean, Starlight is one of the biggest in the state. Earl Girls is a pretty big one in the state. Bowder, which is actually over in Pennsylvania, but they do a lot in New Jersey. And then there's a couple up in New York. It's just they're going to be more expensive to come over the bridge because they usually charge that an arm and a leg. But I would say if you want to reach out to one of them and they can actually give you quotes and you tell them your situation, they can work with you. Because just like you said, if you want lights to dim, you're definitely going to need a dimmer, and that's a price on its own. So that's one of those things. Even if you don't have your own wireless mics, if you do, and you just take them out of your own system and put them out on the field, that's easy to do because you can actually use the field sound system. If it's a pretty good sound system, you can tap right in. I've done that for a couple shows. Long as their board is not a dinosaur from the 90s, you can actually tap into it. So, but yeah, I would recommend always reaching out to a theatrical consultant on that of the entertainment industry. That can help you with if you want to do lighting, if you want to do sound, or you just want to do one or the other. They can help you along and say, these are the prices here. And then you at least have a ground plan and you go, all right, thank you. I'll be in touch. And then you can call another one and say, this is what I want. Cause they put it into a form to tell you this is the items you really need that you're asking for. Because also they'll come out and look at your space and go, you actually need this, or you can actually run it all from this one power source. So it depends on your, again, budget is also a thing. So depending on what you're doing, who knows? So, but that's good that you have a football field though to play with. So
I mean, allegedly, they promised all sorts of stuff that hasn't come. So I don't know, whatever. But I appreciate. Thank you for your
problem. Yeah. And again, there's a lot of stuff in the document. So if you ever need anything, just look in there and that'll help you out.
Okay, so we just have a little bit over 10 minutes left. And before I forget, I just wanted to do a quick plug for next month's masterclass, which is going to be this Thursday, March 4th. And it's called From Inspiration to Action, and it's part of the monthly theme of redefining community representation. And it's going to feature Rick Ettinger, who is an associate professor of musical theater at Carnegie Mellon. And he's also a co-chair of the CMU School of Drama's Diversity and Inclusion Committee. And it's also going to, hosting this masterclass is also going to be Tomei Cousin, who is also the co-chair of that committee at Carnegie Mellon University. And I just think it's going to be a really great class. It looks like it's going to focus on just kind of taking that inspiration for making our work more inclusive and our programs more inclusive, and really really giving y'all some actionable steps towards that. So Lindsay just dropped the link for that in the hold on, in the chat, and so I hope to see you all there. Any final questions before we release y'all for the rest of your day? All right. Well, I would like to thank Rob for joining us. Any parting words, Rob?
No, I just put I'm sure you guys did it earlier, but these are the links to the documents on the side. And yeah, guys, keep theater alive, keep trucking. And if you ever have questions, please feel free to reach out. I mean, I'm learning as I go too. I mean, I've been doing this for years and I'm still learning every day. I'm being in the technical field. I'm used to being thrown curveballs on a constant basis, and you got to learn to swing away once in a while. So, and actually in closing, the best way to do this is, in the words of Walt Disney, keep moving forward. Right. So there you go. Thank you, Sean, and thank you, RE Theater, for this opportunity.
All right. Thank you, everybody.